Ladies and gentlemen, the last talk for today is the continuous frying improves the longevity of palm oil, water vapor evolution from the product, and at the same time during frying, some of the oil is migrated into the product structure. Despite frying has triggered some issues concerning to health to consumers, but significant amount of oil being used for frying application, which is evident by more than 20 million tons of oil being used for this purpose. This is because the frying operation is relatively simple, convenient, and economic feasible, which contribute to the extensive sale of the fried products. Now, I have listed out some of the roles of frying. As mentioned earlier, it can act as a heat transfer media by removing excessive water from the product. It also provides unique sensory properties in part of the fried products. It is also a good source of energy as high as 9 kilocalories per gram. Of course, it also modifies the food texture and therefore make the food edible. Good source of lipid, vitamin soluble, vitamin A, D, E, and K, essential fatty acid, oleic, linoleic, and linolenic acid, and of course also act as a lubricant between the frying pot and the product. So, how much oil in your favorite snack food? As you can see from the slides, the most popular snack food, potato chips, can contain as high as 40%. Same goes with other products like tortilla chip as high as 26%, and the rest of the product you can see from the slides. Since significant amount of frying oil being absorbed into the fried food, it is therefore very important for us to ensure that the quality and the stability of the oil is of good quality. Therefore, the manufacturer of the snack food is looking forward for new strategies and techniques on how to reduce the oil content, and at the same time to prolong the shelf life stability of the oil being used for the frying application. So I have listed out the strategies to improve the oil stability during frying. The first one is to use the inherently stable oil like palm oil and its products through breeding to improve the fatty acid composition of the soft oil. Same goes with hydrogenation, but this method have triggered some issues concerning to trans fatty acid, blending between higher stability oil with liquid oils, and finally additive either using natural or synthetic antioxidants. These are some parameters used as a threshold for used frying oil. In terms of free fatty acid, the range are varied depending on the type of fried food, between 0.5 to 2.5% smoke point of minimum 170 degrees Celsius. Polar compound varied depending on the country legislated, between 24 to 27%, and lastly polymer compound 10 to 14%. So from the last studies, the stability of frying has been extensively discussed for palm olein. However, most of the studies are related to batch or intermittent frying. And apart from that, more than 80% report on the potato products such as potato chips and French fries. And there are very scarce publications which report on the continuous frying due to not only associated to the high cost pertaining to the experiment, but also they try to protect their secret trade from other industry. I have tabulated some literatures on industrial fried application. As you can see, it starts from 1996 and until now. The study continues to carry out. In the red writing, as you can see, the experiment and the studies were conducted in our organization. So we have the continuous fryer facility in our place, a pilot scale 200 liter capacitive continuous fryer. So the objective of our study is to compare the stability of palm olein during intermittent and continuous frying of extruded product. And secondly, we also like to attest storage stability tests for the product obtained when the product is produced under continuous frying condition. The study would give benefit to expose the cottage industry or the small medium industry on how to properly manage the oil. Secondly, to provide technical support to them on how to produce the product in large quantity, and lastly, to increase the yield of the industry. This table shows the differentiation between the intermittent and continuous frying. As you can see, I have distinguished in terms of the production, the process condition, how the oil being heated, and lastly, the application of the frying process for both frying protocols. The table shows the dough formulation used in the study. As you can see, the chick flour constituted as the main ingredient up to 44%, followed by water 32%, and the rest is the trace amount of ingredient for flavoring purposes. The frying conditions for both frying protocols are shown in this table. As you can see, the oil temperature is relatively low, 150 degrees Celsius, whereby the frying time for both frying protocols varied between 2 to 2.5 minutes. We obtained this optimum frying condition in such a way that the end product contained the moisture content of 3%. So for the other process condition, such as replenishment, filtration, and so forth, can be obtained from this table. We analyzed the quality of the frying oil as well as the product produced under continuous frying condition. There are about 11 parameters to measure the quality of the frying oil, and the product underwent for storage stability test for 6 months of storage for sensory evaluation for every 2 months. Now let's have a look on the result and discuss on the results for the oil quality. For the first one is the free fatty acid. As you can see, the acidity of the oil increases as frying progresses, but in the case of intermittent frying, as you can see here, it is obvious that it increased linearly, but in the case of continuous frying, it starts to becoming consistent after 2 days of frying. This is because the oil is continuously compensated as the frying progress because of the oil being absorbed into the fried food. The smoke point is inversely correlated with the FFA. As you can see, it decreased as the frying progressed. The fresh oil showed the smoke point of around 218 degrees Celsius, and after day 5, as you can see, the smoke point for intermittent frying is around 180 degrees Celsius, whereby in the case of continuous frying, the smoke point is more than 190 degrees Celsius. However, these values are well below the smoke point of the discard value of 170 degrees Celsius. We also measure the degradation of vitamin E in the oil samples. The initial vitamin E in the fresh oil is around 600 ppm, but interestingly, in the case of continuous frying, it only exhibits a reduction of 30% just after 1 day of frying and remaining constant thereafter. But intermittent frying, of course, the further reduction continues to occur, and after 5 days of frying, the reduction of more than 70% were evident. In terms of polar and polymer compound, as you can see, after 5 days of frying, the level is still low, 12% in the case of intermittent frying, and less than 10% for the continuous frying. These values are much lower as compared to discard point, 24 to 27%. Same goes with polymer compound. As you can see, there are no significant difference between intermittent frying and continuous frying. At the end of the frying session, as you can see here, the value is around 1 to 1.5%. And again, the level is much lower than the discard point shown in the slides. We also quantify the fatty acid composition changes occurring throughout the frying process for the fresh oil and the intermittent and continuous frying after 5 days of operation. So it is obvious that the fatty acid composition are hardly changed over frying time in both frying protocols. And the parameters pertaining to fatty acid composition are like the ratio between the C18-2 and C16-0, polyene index, which is the ratio between the unsaturated fatty acid and the saturated fatty acid, and the iodine value calculated from the fatty acid profiles. For the other quality indexes, like peroxide value, which measure the primary oxidation of the oil, P-anisodine value, which quantify the secondary oxidation, Tautox value, which correlates the peroxide value and anisodine value, induction period measured using the Rancibat method, and color of the oil using the Lovibond tintometer. As you can see, the peroxide value does not have the distinctive pattern of peroxide formation due to the unstable parameter for frying oil quality indexes. But if you look at the P-anisodine value, the values are more prominent in the case of intermittent frying, where it is more than 2-fold higher as compared to continuous frying. Tautox value is also show the similar trend. Induction period, which is measured at 110 degrees Celsius, show a reduction from 26 to 12 hours in the case of intermittent frying. And interestingly, for continuous frying, the value are more or less comparable with the fresh oil even after 5 days of frying. The color of the oil, despite the continuous frying, show much better stability, but the color of the oil is darker compared to the otherwise. This is because of the production rate of continuous frying is much bigger compared to intermittent frying. We also evaluate the product quality upon storage condition for 6 months. As you can see, we test the intensity of oiliness, crispiness, taste, and overall quality of the fried products. Okay, so by taking score 5 as an acceptable range, we can conclude that the product can be stored until 4 months before it cannot be acceptable by our trained panelists. We try to extract the chickpea oil, and we found that the content of the chickpea oil have higher level of unsaturated fatty acid of more than 80%, which we anticipate that contribute to the resinity of the product being fried. So as a conclusion, the performance of palm olein was more pronounced when the product is processed under continuous frying conditions. Secondly, the stability of the oil also reflected by the acceptable sensory property of the extruded product up to 4 months of storage. And from the study, the snack food manufacturer, particularly the small ones, can select or to shift from conventional batch fryer to use the continuous frying system for their manufacturing plant. So before I end my presentation, I would like to invite you to come to our conference, the MPOB International Palm Oil Conference, which will be held from 6 to 8 October 2015 in Kuala Lumpur. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much.